Hello, my name's Ryan and I'm one of the developers who's been working on Astrum, which is a really lightweight pattern library that we're designing to be included in any web project. I'd like to give you a little demo of what Astrum can do, how easy it is to get started with it, and how you can just include it with new and existing projects really quickly. So in this demo, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new pattern library for an existing project of ours, and that's Charity Bank. So there are lots of things we're going to pull in the buttons, some of the elements, the color scheme, color palette, and things like that. So to get started, we load up our command line. So just bring my terminal over here. So Astrum is an npm package, so you can install it globally. You can do npm install -g Astrum, and that'll make it available for any project that you work on. But I'm not going to do that because I already have it installed. But what I do need to do is initialize Astrum into this folder. So I do Astrum init. I need a publicly accessible folder, so I'm going to call it pattern library and press enter. And as you can see, we've designed the command line tool to give you really helpful feedback on what you need to do next. Astrum works on the most minimum of information. All it really needs is at least one component before it'll fire up. But let me just move this out of the way and show you what happens if you try and go to Astrum demo pattern library without anything there. So the actual pattern library will give you the same information that the command line just did, which is to add a new component. So let's do that. We'll bring the command line tool back. We'll do a new button. So we're going to create a buttons group, and we're going to create the default button or primary button, like so. Press enter. And it asks for a title for the component. So we've got a primary button. It's only a button, so we're just going to have a half width component. This is going to be a black button on a white background, so we don't want to have a dark background that it sits on, so we're going to go with the default no. We've got a group title, so because we're creating a group for the first time, so this is a buttons group, and it's going to have the first position in the pattern library. And as you can see, it now tells you where the description file is for the group, the markup file for the component, and the description file for the component, and Markdown is supported. So we'll just move these out of the way. If we give this a refresh at this stage, we'll get the default view with just one component in. So we have our introduction page, which is our default introduction page, and then we have our buttons group here with the framework for our primary button component, but no information at present. So let's bring our editor across and see what we have here. So Astrum's created an astrum.config file containing the location of the pattern library. We have our pattern library folder. We have an app folder, which is the core CSS and JavaScript for Astrum. You won't need to touch any of that. That's just what makes it work. And we have our index.html file, which is the single page app that Astrum is. We have a data.json file. Now this data.json file is all the core information that makes the pattern library work. As you can see, it's all set to null, but yet our pattern library is loading up. We've designed it deliberately so that you can start using the pattern library with as little information as possible. But these are the available options. You can see that this is our introduction page here in this content object, which is a default page. And here's the component that we created within the buttons group. So the command line tool added this information for us. We have a pages folder, which is our introduction page. You can edit your introduction in Markdown in this file, and it'll load up in the pattern library. And we have our components folder. The components folder, the subfolders, the first tier of subfolders is the groups, and then the next tier down is the components. So we have this buttons group and our component primary. We have our description file for our group, and we have our description file for our component and our markup. So let's add the markup in for our button. This is our primary button, and we'll add a description in as well. And while we're at it, we will add a description in for our group. So we can close up. We're done with them. Now at this point, the button won't render because what we need to do is tell it where the CSS and JavaScript is for, in this case, Charity Bank. So I'm just going to reference the style sheets from the live site. That's perfectly fine. That will work. And if we just move this out of the way and give this a refresh, we see that we've got our primary button all styled with our markup in here. So we'll just add one more component and then I'll show you how we can customize the pattern library to fall in line with the branding for the project that you're working on. So we've added our primary button. We're going to do the inverted version of that, a white button on a black background. So we just do Astrum new, buttons, primary, inverted. We give it a title, inverted primary button. It's half width, and we do want it to have a dark background because it's going to be a white button. So we say yes this time. It's going to appear after the primary button within the pattern library, and it's created the files we need. So bring our editor over. You can see it's created this folder. We've got our markup. We'll just put the markup for the button in there. We'll get our description in there and give this a refresh. And there you go. We've got the inverted version of this primary button. Okay, so what I'd like to show you now is how we can customize the pattern library to be branded to the project that it's related to. So I'm just going to paste in here just to save us a little bit of time, but we fill out this information. We've got the URL for the project, we've got the favicon, the name of the project, the URL to the project, the copyright start year, in this case it's 2016, but if you put 2014 in, Astrum will show 2014 to 2016 automatically. The client name, which in this case is the same as the actual project name, but it may be different in some cases, and the client URL. And what we also have is an array of creators. So there's 3 people who've worked on this project. Matt, who was the primary developer who built the site, Dan, who did the design work, and then I've put this pattern library together. So we'll put the 3 people in here, and we have some theming, so we can actually change the colours of various areas of the pattern library. So the main one I want to change is the brand colour. So this will just give a nice orange to the links and the loaders and everything else. So let's just see what that's done. Give that a refresh. So now we've got an orange loader. We've got our logo. We've got hover states. We've got a little orange hint to them. We've got our copyright information added with our creators and a link to the client and everything else. We've got an option in here. You notice how we say it's charity bank here at the top, but we've also got a logo and it's kind of a duplication. We've got an option in here to turn that off, so you can actually set this to false, and that will hide that project name. In the case of our company, we just have a logo which is an oxen's head, so we want to show the actual name of the project underneath that. So we've put that flexibility in there as well. Okay, so as you can see, I've added a few more components to the pattern library. We've got some more groups, we've got typography, more buttons, some navigation examples and product examples and things like that. So the last thing I want to show you is the color component. So this will allow us to create a color palette as a component within the actual pattern library. So we'll just bring back as terminal, and we do an Astrum new as before, and we'll put this inside as branding group, and we'll call it primary colors. And what we do is we add an option called type and type of colors. We'll give it a name, and we'd like this to come first in that group, and it gives us some instructions. So if we just bring over our editor, we'll see that this has created a primary colors component with a type of colors and an empty array for the colors that we want to add. So if we just add some colors in here, give this a refresh. We now have a color palette component. And with that, we'll bring this demo to a close. I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Astrum. If you'd like more information on how to get started and what Astrum is capable of, head over to the website getastrum.com, and we welcome any feedback you may have. Thank you.